Hi, guys. This week on the podcast, we're chatting with a new wave and oldies loving DJ from the Golden State about her DJing in this age of streaming, which astrological signs are the best artists, and a whole lot more. This week, we got the fabulous DJ Jazzabella, so let's get into it. Hi, guys. Randy here from the Vinyljunkie podcast. And this week on the podcast, we have a DJ. She's American, our first American on the podcast. It's Priscilla, aka DJ Jazzabella. Welcome to the show, Priscilla.
Hi. Thanks for having me, Ranny. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I was really excited to have you on the show. Um, it's funny you're the second female to be on the show, and it's like a little out of balance at the moment because I have like so many dudes on the show, and it's funny the other female who was on the show was also a DJ.
Oh, really? Who was it?
She goes by the name Secret Agent here in Toronto.
Awesome.
Yeah, she does mostly uh, not big clubs, but like just kind of small venue gigs and little things. She's not like a big club DJ or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I'm glad I'm the second. I appreciate it. Representing.
For sure. So let's get into a little bit of getting to know you and kind of how you got all into this. Like, did you have a lot of music in your childhood from your parents, or did that influence come later on?
Yeah, so I was brought up, my mom, single parent. She was really good at introducing my brothers and I to really awesome music. So I was exposed to a lot of um 80s music, like new wave, especially here in LA because we're like really big on new wave and all that stuff, like 80s
Hmm.
punk, 80s post punk, new wave, dark wave, all that good stuff, goth. So here in LA, growing up, and at that time, my mom was like also going to shows and like collecting music, and she was like a big music head. So she introduced me to a lot of like um, disco. She introduced me to a lot of oldies like soul, sweet soul, lowrider oldies, what they call it here,
Yeah.
and also like a lot of new wave. So the thing is that she wasn't into collecting records. She was just like buying CDs and tapes and stuff like that. So I just, I didn't get into collecting records through her. I just got into listening to different types of music, especially new wave.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I was mostly brought up listening to oldies and new wave, which is I feel like a really big common thing for a lot of like people my age and um yeah, here in LA, it's like a very common thing to be into those two different types of genres. But so my mom introduced me all that stuff. And then as I got older, I because I was so into music, I ended up um, applying at a record shop, and it was Amoeba.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Nice.
I applied at Amoeba before they moved over to a different location in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting a job there as a cashier, front end, and that just changed my whole life because like that's what exposed me to records, and I was just so fascinated by collecting that I wanted to like kind of do it proper. So I was like, let me get into like a record shop and like, explore all that. So I started working at Amoeba, and at that time I was like, I had like a very humble, like small collection of
Hmm.
CDs. And then, I just started buying records like crazy. Like everything that I had on CD, I would replace it with records. And so I went really crazy. I spent most of my paychecks there just buying records. And then um, at that time, I wasn't a DJ, so I was just collecting music.
Yep.
And then once I had to move to Seattle. My mom had passed away, so at that time I was like really, really going through a lot, and so I decided, I'm gonna move away from home and like go explore and like just like start new. So I moved to Seattle, and when I moved to Seattle, I started buying more records up there. I left my job, I moved up there, and I started buying more records. I was like hooked on just buying like a bunch of like jazz and hip hop. And so when I was up there, I found a lot of really good jazz music, a lot of Blue Note,
Okay.
and I was just like really stuck on jazz because hip hop is what like launched me into collecting jazz music,
Hmm.
buying hip hop on vinyl, and then going into the jazz, all the samples and all that. So I
Oh
got
yeah, for
into
sure.
yeah, so I got into like jazz music, and I already had like all the oldies, like all the new wave that I wanted in my collection. So when I got into the jazz, I was like, you know what? I kind of want to do a radio show, and I started looking into it, and I found this radio station. It's called Hollow Earth Radio. It's still in Seattle, and so I volunteered there, and I had told them like, hey, I'm interested in volunteering, and I wanted to ask like, is it possible to do a show? And they were like, yeah, like what kind of show would you want to do? And so I was like, okay, let me think about that. And I was like, I'm gonna do a jazz show because I was like so into collecting it at that time. And so I started off doing a jazz show, and that's how I came up with my name. And but I already was collecting a little bit of everything.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's how I started collecting music and got into the DJing.
Oh, that's awesome. So when were you at Amoeba?
I was at Amoeba, I think right after I graduated high school. So this was like in 2008,
Okay.
2000. Yeah, this is like a while back, but
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, around that time, I think it was like 2008, and I was working there for like a year. And then my mom passed in 2009, and that's when I was like, I kind of have to take a break from because I was going to schools in college. I was working a lot. I had, I had my job. I was in school, and I was dealing with that. And so, yeah, I ended up just there for like a year, and then I moved away.
Okay. No, because when I was in LA, I think it was 2017, and I visited Amoeba for the first time, and it was still at the old location. So, um, and I was just astounded at how big that store is and how much they had, and I was just kind of trying to figure out if we may have been ships passing in the night, and you had like cashed me out or something, but like you'd been long gone by then.
Yeah, it was definitely long gone. But yeah, that place is crazy. It's changed a lot since they relocated. But yeah,
Where's the
when
new store these days?
it's like a few blocks away from where they were
Oh,
originally.
okay.
I think it's like off of Hollywood Boulevard. I'm not too sure, but it's literally like a few blocks away, like a few blocks down. But yeah, it's just changed a lot since they relocated. I personally feel that way, but I don't know, like it's still very popular. Like people go there all the time and
Hmm.
all that. I do feel like their prices did kind of go up a little bit, but you could still find a lot of great stuff there.
Well, I feel like the market in general, the prices have just kind of slowly been climbing, climbing, climbing. So
Yeah,
yeah.
especially in Hollywood, like, 'cause if it's like a touristy spot, yeah, that's what's gonna happen. It's it's gonna get a little bit more expensive than like other spots, and I think yeah, I also agree because I feel like record collecting has gotten really big lately. So like especially with 45s, and so when I started collecting it, I was paying like a dollar, $2, maybe 25 cents for a
Hmm.
45. And I was digging, I wasn't buying anything online. I was not even into Discogs at the time. And
Yep.
so I was just always digging, and I always was like just obsessed with like getting everything on a 45. And I already had my Blue Note Jazz on vinyl and like my new wave vinyl, all my 12 inches, my LPs. But when it came to the 45s, I was just so invested in it. And so throughout the years, I've built my collection, and now I'm realizing because I still collect 45s. Um, I'm realizing, there's a lot of cool stuff being pressed and, reissued and all that stuff, and a lot of dope edits on 45. So it's like now I'm paying like $20, sometimes $30 for a 45.
Which
I'm
is
like, this is crazy.
insane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's wait, it's this side. The the line up here, those are all my 45s.
Nice. What do
So
you like to collect?
how many 40 oh so my collection is like literally all over the place. Um some strange there's a lot of Christmas and a lot of soundtracks. These days it's very pop heavy. There's a lot of electronic um but yeah, a mix of everything. And like my when I grew up, my folks were my dad had like a Pink Floyd, The Wall, which I still have. I'm still using his turntable and everything. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really sweet.
So wait, how many 45s do you have in your collection? Is that the biggest part of your collection, or
Well,
that's the working part? Because like I assume that you have your kind of your personal collection and then your working records for when you're DJing.
so I play everything. I use all my 45s. It just depends on um I don't really like to do like specific sets. I
Hmm.
like to mix a little bit of everything because I like to represent myself that way as someone that, because for so long I was always just jazz, 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 to stick to the name. So now as I've like, progressed in my DJ journey, I've figured, I think I want to just represent myself as someone that's open and like plays everything, a little bit of everything. And that's why I love 45s, because like you could just easily do that and get really creative, and it's just like quick mixing, like just one genre another genre. So I love that, and it's just like always really challenging but fun at the same time, and trying to come up with like a creative set.
Hmm.
So when I DJ, I like to have a little bit of everything in my bag, like hip hop, new wave, soul, funk, disco. But when it comes to Twitch, because I do Twitch, I like to do stay. When it's in person, I do open. But when it comes to like Twitch, I like to specifically do shows that are like a certain genre. So just to have the balance.
Yeah.
So on Twitch, I'll do that. I'll do an alternative Tuesday thing on Twitch, and that's all new wave. That's all 80s, post punk, dark wave, goth stuff. So that's like specific. And then on another one, like I'll do all oldies on a Sunday. I used to do that for years when we were doing the lockdown thing. Like I was on Twitch doing, it was called Sad Girl Sunday. So I'd do like all
Oh.
oldies on a Sunday. Yeah, so I have that collection in my 45. So I have a lot of 45s at this point. I'm still buying more, so I'm expanding my collection. But at this point, I separated all my 45s by genre. And so I have about, I think, like almost like 20 boxes of
Oh
45s.
my god.
But yeah, and then they're all separated by genre. So like I'll have probably like, at this point I have like 3 or 4 boxes of rock, which is all like, the dad rock, and then I have it in like the 80s new wave rock, and different types of rock. So I have like 3 or 4 boxes of rock, and then I have like 2 boxes of hip hop, 2 boxes of 80s funk, 2 boxes of disco. So, I just expand it, but I like to separate them by genre.
Nice. Nice. Um yeah, I'm just trying to imagine all of that and um trying to I guess you have it by genre and then alphabetical and so
Well,
it's
no,
easy.
that's honestly, I haven't committed to that yet, because I'm always moving them around. So just like keeping them alphabetized is so hard. Just keeping them by genre is hard. But I know DJs, like personal friends of mine, that like they will invest the time in alphabetizing, categorizing, and also like BPMing
Oh yeah, for
everything.
sure.
And I was like, oh my God, that takes forever. And so what I'm doing now is focusing more on not only separating them by genre, but also having them by the BPM,
Yeah.
and trying to keep it, that way. But it's always challenging to do that because don't get me wrong, Randy, like I've done that where I've kept them together by genre and by
Mhm.
BPM, but then like a few months later, it's like I have to start all over again and like separate everything, organize it.
But when you're getting ready for a gig, it must be like insane trying to find, like, if you know you want to bring a certain thing and you're trying to find it within 20 boxes of 45s. That must be.
Well, no. That's why I separate them by genre because, like, if I let's say, for example, I hear someone play this one record that I have, and I
Yeah.
never play it, and I already know because I've organized my 45s by genre. I already have an idea of like what box I'm gonna find it in. So, for example, like the other day, my friend played Elvis Costello, "Every Day I Write the Book," and I was like, okay, I know I have that in like in my rock box. So I'm gonna go through the rock and pull it out, and but I might not find it right away because that's if I knew the BPM right away, right? So then I just like go straight to that BPM and pull it out. But I had to like dig through it. But it's like much better having it by genre instead of just having it all over the place. It's just like having to look through everything just to find that one record.
Yeah, I guess every DJ has their own method to their madness. I know I've bought back in the day. I bought like two or three crates from. He must have been an old DJ, and it was like all these 12 inches, and it was like $30 for like two crates worth of stuff. And then
That's not bad.
when I was going through it, it was like you could see some of them like had BPMs written on the
Oh yeah,
centers.
yeah.
So that was
Yeah,
always
so
interesting.
I don't like writing the BPM on the sleeves. I usually what I do is I put it on the plastic sleeve. I'll put the BPM on there.
Yeah.
But then that's another thing too, Randy. Like the BPM stickers tend to fall off sometimes, and then you have to like replace it, and it's a lot of work to
Plastic
maintain.
sleeves get mixed up, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's always like a constant like effort. You have to always just keep maintaining the organization and like replacing certain sleeves and like stickers, BPM stickers and stuff like that. And sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I do get a little lazy. I'm just like I already know the BPM to that, so I'm not even gonna put the sticker on it. But
So
what also helps too, now that I'm mentioning it, now I tend to like skip that method, and now what I do is I put the BPM sticker on the actual record, like on the label.
okay,
So I put the BPM sticker on the actual label of the record on the 45 or whatever, and it'll have the BPM on each side. So that way, like it's inside the sleeve. And I don't know, I just feel like that works out a little bit more better for me than to have it on the plastic sleeve. And that's with like a lot of the records that I kind of already know the BPM. Like after you playing records for a certain amount of time, like you kind of already memorize them, and you're like, okay, I know that this is like 120, and it doesn't have a BPM sticker, but I know it's 120. So,
yeah.
and then I'll open it, I'll take it out, and then the sticker will be on the label, and I'll be like, oh, see, I knew that, like 120, So
So you were at a radio station in Seattle, and I assume radio DJing is very different than like mixing and DJing a show. Where did you just kind of, are you self-taught, or how did that come about?
well, yeah, when I started, I was definitely learning just by watching, watching other DJs, people that inspired me. Um and then eventually I ended up taking like some classes, like basic intro classes. And then I did like private lessons with some DJs. Like
Oh,
I've done a
cool.
little bit of that. So I've done like private lessons. I've also done DJ school, like just the basic intro to DJing course. And but yeah, majority it's like I've been self-taught and just by watching other people and like also like watching like YouTube videos and stuff like that. But definitely did a little bit of schooling, just to kind of like confirm, I guess, like the fact that like the things that I do know are actually the right things, like
Yeah.
just to be like, okay, that's how you actually beat match. So I learned this way, but I want to make sure that this is the right way. So when I went to the school that I went to, a lot of the stuff I was already familiar with, but I had to like kind of like kind of implement little things to make it a little bit more easier to like learn how to do it
Oh
quickly.
yeah, for sure.
So like beat matching, there's certain things that you could do to do it a lot more quicker than the way I was used to doing it. So I learned a few things, doing the basic intro to DJing course. And then when I was like at a point where I said, you know what, I feel stagnant. I want to learn how to do some scratching. So I invested in some like private lessons, and I learned a little bit of the basic scratching. But then I was like, you know what, like I'm not too into the scratching. Like turntablism is one thing, and it's not really, I mean, I respect it, and like
Yeah.
people that are like super into it and love it and like invest in it,
Hmm.
but I think at this point for me it's like not something that I'm really like crazy about. Like and I still kind of try to figure out like what kind of DJ am I. Like I think at this point I really just enjoy connecting with other people through music, and I love making people dance.
Yeah.
So it to me it's like I just want to be a party DJ. Like I want to make people dance and like just know what to play at the right time. And that's like important to me. So I think for me it's just knowing how to read a room, um, what to have in the bag, and like when to like play it. Those are the things that I try to work on. And also my mixing and beat matching and all that stuff. And being open to doing vinyl, and being open to being a digital DJ as well, like open format DJ. Because for a long time I was just playing records, and like I got into digital way later.
Well, it's funny because I think most people did it the other way around, where digital was kind of a big thing for a while there, with party DJs, and then they went to vinyl. So it's kind of interesting that you've kind of did it in reverse.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting when I meet people that barely got started collecting. I'm like, and they've been DJing. Yeah, it's always like a trip to me. I'm always like, what? Like I don't know why, but I always just assumed that people started with records. Just the old school way. I just always assumed that. So when I do meet DJs that didn't start that way, I'm like, wow. And so I eventually, at some point, I started teaching kids like in schools and stuff, like in high schools and at parks, and I got to meet a lot of these kids that were into just digital, and but they also wanted to like get into collecting records. So that's when I was like learning like young kids, like it makes more sense because of their generation, and
Yeah.
like things like technology and all this and that. So, but when you meet someone like older, it's kind of like a trip. You're like, what? Like, you should know about records, So I've had to teach kids like how to manipulate like a record, how to like, like how to scratch, like how to do this, how to use the mixer and things like that. So, all that stuff like I trip out because it's like something that their parents didn't teach them, and I'm teaching them, and so it's cool to like introduce them some like old school way, instead of like showing them how to use an iPad.
Yeah, yeah. Although I don't think most parents are actually teaching their kids how to scratch and stuff.
Well,
And
not
beat match.
scratch, but like
Yeah.
okay, way, but like just how to use equipment. Like you have back then, like parents had their record player in their home. And like
Yeah.
you knew how to like put the needle on the record and stuff like that, or like how to just use like a turntable or a mixer. Because that's what you had at home in the setup. But a lot of these parents like they don't have that, so it's like you're showing them these things that back then people had at home, just to for fun, not
Yeah.
nothing crazy, not to like DJ or anything, just to play a record.
Yeah, and then you show them a cassette tape and they're like, what the hell's that?
Yeah, I mean it's cool if they did teach them, or they can teach them how to scratch, like that's cool. I mean there's parents that know how to do all that too.
um, One of the other things I thought was interesting is kind of there is a popularity now amongst DJs who are spinning vinyl. They're using 45s instead of like old school where it used to be popular to use like 12-inch records. Was there a reason why, like, I know you said you have 12-inch records in your collection. Was there a reason why you kind of went, um, pushed more towards 45 in the work you do?
Yeah, because I started traveling. So, when I first started traveling as a DJ, like I was always, just stuck here, home base, LA, doing a lot of different stuff here in LA. And eventually, I said, you know what, I want to travel, and I need to start getting on that. So what I did was my first time I went to Europe as a DJ, I did bring some of my 12 inches with me. Like I brought some LPs out with me. And at that time, I brought like a few 45s, but I didn't have the stuff that I had on LPs that I wanted to play for like a crowd out there. I didn't have that on 45. So I was like,
Mm,
I got to bring both, you know?
yeah.
So this was when I was already invested in collecting 45s, but I didn't have a lot of the stuff that I really wanted on 45. So I sprinkled in some 45s here and there, classic stuff. But like a majority of what I played the first time I went to Europe was all 12 inches. So when I went out there and I was lugging around like 12 inches everywhere I played, I was just like, man, this is like crazy. Like this is a lot of work, you know? And then you have to check in and like carry all
Yeah.
this weight, and it's just one thing going to like a bar or club here in LA and just bringing 12-inch like crates with you, but like
Hmm.
having to travel with it, going through the airport and like taking it to your Airbnb or your hotel and then going to the club and all this and all that. And I said, you know what, like at this point, I think it's better for me to just replace a lot of the stuff and put it on 40 that I can get on 45. So that's why I went even harder. And I said, I'm going to replace all this stuff. I'm going to replace all of it. So next time I come back, I could just bring 45s and I don't have to carry all this extra weight.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've been doing that since then. Like every time I go to Europe or I travel to a city or wherever I'm going to play, I just bring 45s. I don't bring 12 inches anymore. I leave them at home. Um and it's just, for me, it's just more convenient and more, it's like, it's just more convenient just to travel with them. So I think that's another big reason why a lot of people, they caught on to that, and a lot of
Yeah.
DJs, they love buying them. I've had these conversations with some people about it, and they're like, yeah, it's so easy to travel with them, and now they're putting everything out on 45, so it's just easier to bring that instead of the LP.
Yeah, for sure. Um, what what can people expect? Coming to one of your shows, or I guess it does depend. It depends on where it is and what it's for, or are they just kind of You're mix bagging it depending on the crowd.
Well, people are always gonna expect to see me play 45s. I think at this point they're gonna be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, yeah, she's gonna bring 45s like she usually does." At this point, that's what people know me. And they're also, I mean, people that really, really know me and have seen me, grow as a DJ, that have been following and all that. They know that I have like an a certain niche, and to me it's like new wave. I always like to sprinkle in a lot of new wave, a lot of like rock influences and stuff like that. So those are like two things, like 45s. She's gonna play 45s. She's gonna, definitely play a lot of like that new wave shit. She's gonna sprinkle that in. There's some punk. So those are two things for sure.
Do you have like any go-to songs that like are that come up way more often than others?
Yeah, I always like to play in my sets. I always tend to play some Shaka Khan. I
Oh,
always play some
nice.
Shaka Khan in my set. What else do I love playing um the Smiths. I love playing How Soon Is Now whenever I
Oh, that's
can. I play
fantastic
it.
song.
I love that song. I'll never get tired of that song. It's like one of my ultimate favorite songs. So I always like to throw in the Smiths, some Shaka, and there was one more. Definitely the Smiths, Shaka Khan. Oh, and De La Soul. I always love playing De La Soul. So it's like those are like three artists that you're definitely gonna hear in my set.
Which is quite a mix of different things. So that's awesome.
Right, as I'm saying, yeah. It's like I always have that, but I mean, like if I could, I would. in every set I would play The Cure, but because that's my favorite band of all time. But
Yeah.
then I'm like, no, that's special now. Like it has to be very special for me to play The Cure in it, you know. So it's more catered to a specific crowd at that point. But when it's just open and I'm just like having fun, no pressure, definitely The Smiths, De La Soul, Shaka Khan, Stevie Wonder, Janet Jackson. If it's not Shaka, it's Janet Jackson for
Oh,
sure.
nice.
Yeah.
I love Janet. That was like a big one from my like teenage years. So
Yeah, I love her. She's the best, and she's a Taurus like me. So you know, Stevie Shock no, Shaka's an Aries, but Stevie, also Talking Heads, David Byrne. I love playing Talking Heads a lot. He's a Taurus. Janet is a Taurus. Yeah, there's a lot of really awesome Taurus musicians. Like I don't know why I always tend to associate myself with like signs and like put them in my sets, and then I always shout out like the sign, like oh shout out to the Gemini, shout out to the Tauruses, shout out to the Aries, you know.
that's amazing. Are you? I take it you're big on astrology.
Yeah, I definitely focus a lot on that. Yeah, I pay attention to it. I like to figure out what artists like my artists, like the artists that I love to listen to, bands that I love to listen to. I like to, you know, look into them and then I look into their birthdays and I'm like, okay, you know, what's their sign? And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like Morrissey's a Gemini, Prince is a Gemini, you know. So I always tend to like make a mental note of like certain artists that I love and what their signs are.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I know some people don't pay attention to that. They're just like, oh, I didn't know she was a Gemini. I didn't know she was a Taurus, you know. But
So
me, it's like you ask me, and I'll be like, I know what their sign is.
so
I'm serious.
do you find a correlation between their sign and their music, the kind of music they're playing or writing and stuff? Like uh, I
Well, you
wouldn't
know what?
know.
That's a good question, dude. Because I feel like with Geminis in particular, like they definitely stand out the most when it comes to associating signs with the music. I
Okay.
feel like Geminis, like they are like they're just like amazingly talented. You know, they're just like really extremely talented. Like really like what I mean by that is like they can do it all. Like they can just do it all. Like Prince can do it all. Kendrick can do it all. Like he's like, you know, Kendrick Lamar is a Gemini. I feel like all these like amazing, talented like Geminis, like I feel like I would put them at the top of the list, like as far as like signs and like music, like who are like
Yeah, yeah.
the top, you know? And I feel like
So
Geminis are at the
which sign is least prolific in music?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't want to answer that. I don't want to answer that. You know, kind of problematic for me to answer that. But no, I definitely hold Gemini's. Like, okay, like for example, like if you were to tell me like this new artist is coming out, and you tell me, oh, they're a Gemini, I'll be like, okay, I know I'm gonna like it. Like I already know because they know their shit and they're
Yeah,
really good
yeah.
at what they do. And another sign that I can say that's I look at as like similar to Gemini because they're super creative and artsy are Pisces.
Okay.
Pisces. Yeah, they have a way of like really tapping into their emotion and like expressing and so I really love a lot of Pisces artists. Like Nina Simone is a Pisces. You know, super like, you know, soulful and you know, just really, really like emotional and stuff like that. So you know, I love Pisces musicians, artists, and Geminis and Tauruses. Those are like my three favorites.
Okay, so I'm a Leo. So what do you think of Leo artists?
Leos are badass. Leos are awesome. I feel like there's really I mean Madonna.
Yeah, but
Madonna is a
the biggest
Leo.
Leo of them all, right?
She is a total Leo. Like she just dominates everything and she's just amazing. I mean, she's the queen, you know. I love her. So, I just think that one thing I can say about Leos is like they definitely love being in the spotlight. Like they love it, but like they're also very like hardworking and you know whatever they do, whether it's like owning a business or making music, being an artist, whatever. Like they are really really loyal to it and passionate and they're just like they excel because like that's just a Leo. Like Leos are hardworking people, and they're really good at like maintaining like they can like talk the talk.
Yeah.
Like people like I know one Leo, my friend Margie, she goes by Chaotic Blaze. She's a DJ from New York. And when I met her, I was like, "What's your sign?" She's like, because she does a show. It's called Meeting in the Ladies Room, and
Okay.
with her partner Tiff Star, they're both DJs, and so they do this show and they have guests as well. And so, anyways, like when they interviewed me, she was the one on the mic. Like she was just like holding it down on the mic, and I was just like, wow, like she's just a natural, like a leader, like just on it, like spot, like asking all the questions, just like they just hold it down. So when I asked her, "What's your sign?" She's like, "I'm a Leo." I'm like, I could tell, dude. Like you just have that fire, like you're just on it, on it, on it. Like that energy's up there. She has you like excited and like into it, and they just bring out that energy.
So we're gonna shift it a little bit. So I see
Okay.
behind you, you have some full length albums. How much of your collection is kind of that now? Like I know you were saying earlier, like you had all your albums and then you kind of went to jazz and then you were like building up your 45s. So like when you go out and hit up record shop, like how often are you buying a full length album, or is most of your shopping now these days kind of finding that 45 to fill the gaps?
Well, I don't really buy 12 inches anymore. I don't really buy LPs anymore.
Sure.
But once in a while, there is something that's in the top of my head. I'm like, oh, I need that one. So if I'm at a record show, which I usually just go to record shows, I don't really go to record shops as much anymore.
Hmm.
Um, so what I do is when I'm at a record show, I'm obviously going straight to the 45s. Like I'm trying to, get as many as I can find, get like really good deals on 45s, but there's always like those LPs at the top of my head that like I know I don't have and I've been trying to like get it in my collection. So, but that's like once in a great while. Like I'll have like a stack of 25 45s that I found at the record show and I have like one LP.
Yeah.
But to me it's like worth it. Like I'm definitely going to buy this one. And so the last LP I bought recently that I had been looking for and I was not able, the past couple times I came across it was just like not in good condition, or it was too expensive,
Hmm.
or I just didn't have the money for it and I rather use that money for my 45s. But like, so there's always like this one reason why I didn't buy this record. But just the other day I went to a record show in Oceanside, like near San Diego, and I was just already like going through 45s and I said, wait, I gotta see if they have this record. And I started asking around. And I was like, "Do you guys have Meat Is Murder by the Smiths? Because this is a record that I have been looking for, and every time I find it, it's just not the right time." And the guy's like, one of the vendors was like, "No, I don't have it." And I was like, "Okay, that's fine." So I went to another one, and then the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I have it, but it's somewhere here. Like we gotta just look for it." I was like, "Okay," and I'm looking, and I'm thinking, "Oh, he sold it already because I can't find it."
Yeah.
And he steps in and he's like going through everything and he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm pretty sure I still have it. Like I don't remember selling it. And I was like, it's all right. Like it's not meant to be. And then like I ended up leaving. I walked away and I was like looking through other tables and he came back and he's like, oh, I found it. So I was like,
Oh,
what?
like he went to look for you and tell you. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, he like went to go look for me and then he was like, I found it. I was like, okay, perfect. And I was like thinking already like, oh, he's probably gonna want like a bunch of money for it or something. And I was already thinking, like, I'm going to do it. Like, he went through all this effort. Like, I'm just going to buy it. It doesn't matter. And so he shows it to me, and it's still wrapped. Like, it's still in shrink wrap. Like, it has not been played.
It's sealed. Like
And it's sealed. Yeah. I was just like, what? Okay, this is a record I've been looking for. And you went out of your way to look for it for me when I gave up. And it's still sealed. And I was just like, what? And I was like, how much do you want for this? And like, it had the price tag on. He's like, well, this is what I'm asking for, but like, I'll give you this price. And I said, okay, it's worth it. Like, it's still sealed. Like, I'm definitely gonna buy it, And it's in like a really good condition. Like, the sleeve, everything was in really good condition. So I
Yeah.
bought it and I was so happy because I finally like have this record in my collection, and it's a record that I had been looking for a while. So normally I don't really invest too much anymore on LPs, unless it's like a classic album that I know I need to just have, and I'm always gonna just keep it in my collection. I'm never gonna get rid of it
Yeah.
because I've had to downsize on my LPs as well. Like I've sold some of my collection.
Yeah.
I've sold like some jazz records in the past. I've sold a lot of Latin, a lot of reggae, a lot of hip hop. And now at this point, I've condensed it down to just albums that I absolutely just need to have in my collection. So I've downsized a lot. And so this is one that it has been added recently. Um, and yeah, so like I just have in the background basically all the albums that I literally play a lot. Like it's like heavy rotation. Like I listen to them probably like once a week. Not even
Okay.
joking. Not even joking. Like once a week I listen to these albums. So to this day. So I had to like figure out, okay, what am I going to show in the display because there's so much to choose from, you know?
Yeah, that
And so
that
this
be
one here, this is one where like I have been listening to this one these past couple days, like on repeat, like nonstop. And it's a Pete Rock, CL Smooth main ingredient.
yeah.
And this record right here is another one where I had been looking for it for a long time. And I was like, I need this record. And so I finally found it a few years ago. And, I'm always going to keep it in my I have the tape of it as well.
Yeah.
Um, that's how much I love this album. So it's to me, it's like this is what introduced me to like my real like love and appreciation for hip hop. This album right here, like it's just when I think of hip hop, I think of this album. When I think of like why I love hip hop, this is the album. And it's like I will never get tired of this album. I will never get tired of it. Like I will literally in these past couple of days while I'm working, I'm just playing it in the background and I just have it on repeat. But and then like I have like a big obsession with Bjork. So
Yeah,
I
that Bjork
oh,
album was like the first one I ever listened to, and it's like such an amazing album.
right. Yeah, I this one right here again, Randy, like it's there's albums where it just takes you a minute and you're like I need to find it. I need to find it. And when you do, it's like finally, And I mean, I feel like you could just buy everything like on LPs or you could buy like 12-inch singles and stuff and just have them in there. But like when it comes to like condensing and like being like really specific with your collection, it's like you take the time to like kind of not invest too much in like all these other different types of records. It's just like okay, it's specific. Like this is a record that I need, and I'm just gonna look because like people buy all kinds of stuff. Like they buy this and this and this and that, and I'm like me. It's like no, it has to be a very specific album. And I'm not gonna spend too much money on LPs anymore, like buying like $200 worth of LPs. No, I'm gonna buy like one specific one that's gonna cost me like $60. With 45s, it's the opposite. Complete opposite. Like I'm buying everything and anything on a 45 and it could be 25 cents, it could be $1, it could be $20, it could be $40, it could be $60. Like I'll buy it, just because I literally at this point my 45 collection I've invested so much more money into it.
Yeah.
So I have more on 45 than I do on LPs now basically.
Well, yeah, if you're ever in Toronto, there's a few places that I could probably bring you to that you might enjoy digging through. So,
Oh yeah, you know what? I've never been to Canada.
yeah.
Never been to Canada, and I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, I need to make it out to Canada. There's a lot of different things going on in different places in Canada, and I just need to make that happen. I always end up going back to Europe or, back to New York. But I think this year for me, like, or hopefully this year, if not next year, I think I want to definitely make it to Canada. And if not, on the another country that's on my list is South Korea. South
So
Korea
I've
would
been to South Korea a while back. Obviously not to DJ or anything like that, but it was it was a culture shock to be honest, because it was kind of like so dense, like dense in a way that like just kind of like how is this even possible?
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I mean, to me, like I think of like Japan. When I think of
Hmm.
South Korea, like so much going on. But yeah. I mean, I also had Japan on my list, but I think for me, I would much rather go to South Korea first than Japan. So definitely, South Korea, Brazil, and Canada are the three places I want to visit next. So if I'm in Canada, definitely we got to link up.
So generally, are your travels kind of like always uh, linked to, hey, I'm gonna travel here. I'm also gonna do like, is it always gig oriented?
Yes, definitely. It's always work. So if I'm gonna be traveling somewhere, I tend to start reaching out to people and places I have like mutual friends with, and then if I get one gig locked in, um, my goal is to at least have like before I make the trip is to at least have like two or three gigs.
Okay.
And then while I'm there, once I'm already there and I'm doing my thing and I'm meeting people, then I start getting more. So, just kind of get your foot in the door while you're there. That's usually how it works out for me. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful because every time I've done that, like, it's just like, I never want to expect it to land on me, like just land on my feet, like, oh, she's going to get this, she's going to get that. Like, I don't expect it. But it's
Hmm.
always like really nice to be like able to like lean on the community, like the DJ community and the vinyl community, and like know that like if you want to go out there and do your thing, most likely you're going to get taken care of. So I feel like because that's been the case, I've been able to like really, network a lot with different people, meet a lot of great people, and get a lot of really awesome opportunities while I've traveled. And it's just like that's why I get so hooked into it. I get
Yeah,
so
for
sucked
sure.
into it. It's just all about us coming together about loving music and just building and getting to know each other and sharing music and like being into like 45s, like, oh, she has this on 45, oh, he has this on 45, like that's so cool. We all like nerd out on records.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so do you find that um, being on Instagram and on Twitch and streaming in the various places that's kind of helped you in getting like, because I can't imagine it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to Europe and hopefully land a gig like that. To me, that just sounds impossible.
Yeah, so definitely, like I mentioned, I tend to when I'm gonna travel to country, I already start researching like places where I can play. Like okay, through social media. Like that's one great thing about social media is that most places have IGs. Vinyl bars, listening bars, clubs, things like that. So then you follow these places, and sometimes like even on their IG they have like a way to like ask about booking. Like they connect you with their email or whatever, or you can even like send them a message. So that's one way that I do that. I try to book myself for certain things by researching on Instagram or like social media and reaching out personally.
Yeah.
But another way is I ask a friend like, hey, I know you played here, who can I contact? And so having that community of DJs, social media, like that you can like ask to like help you out, because we're all in it together. So it's like, they've been in that same situation you're in right now, so they already know like, okay, let me look out and see what's up and connect you with this place. So I do that. I reach out to friends that I know have played at these places, or I reach out to the venue like personally, and sometimes I get a response, sometimes I don't, but there's plenty of other places
Hmm.
that I can ask, and whatever works out works out. And like I said, there's times where like I'll probably have like I have like three gigs locked in, but then I get there and then like I'm just like booked everywhere. Like I'm like, wow, I was not expecting all this, but it's great, like I can't complain. So that happens to me a lot in New York. Every time I get kind of a little bummed out sometimes. I'm like, man, like I only have like 3 gigs so far. And then I get there and it's just like, oh my God, like I have this and this and this. And New York is a busy city. There's always something going on. So, and of
Hmm.
course, it makes sense. You're going to get busy while you're there.
Well, it's funny because when I first reached out to you, I was looking back at some of your posts, and it's like, did she live in New York or does she live in LA? And I was a little confused because there is like a lot of postings of like of different gigs that you were doing in New York. So it's kind of like, well, she's in New York a lot. So
No, I'm telling you, like, I don't plan it too far out. I plan like a month of just, doing some stuff and then I'm there and then I just get so busy that I just stay longer. And I'm grateful that, I've been able to like really you know, just get a lot of opportunities while I've been there and I've met a lot of really I mean, this has been years though. Don't get me wrong. Like this is
yeah,
not like I went like, last year and that happened. No, I've been going consistently to New York for like the past like 5 years. So it's like I've networked, I've worked with different people, I've gone and came back and things like that. So throughout the years I've invested and like I've gotten to know a lot more people. So networking has definitely helped me out a lot and making the investment, it's all an investment. So yeah, but I love New York because no matter what, while you're there, you're going to be busy no matter what.
so is DJing like your full time job? Do you do any other kind of like, or that's your main source of income?
No, actually, so I was DJing full time for years, like probably like, whew, because I'm hitting like 15 years already of DJing. Full time on and off like 15 almost 15 years. I think it's going to be 15 years next year. um and so it's been on and off. Like when I first started I was doing it part time, and then I once I started traveling, overseas and stuff, then
Hmm.
I was like, okay, I'm going to do it full time, and I did it full time for a few years. And then eventually I was like, you know what? I'm kind of burnt out. I don't want to just keep doing this like for money
Yeah,
and be just relying on it. So I
yeah.
got burnt out and I was like, you know what? Let me look for like a job, like a part-time job. So then I would like do the part-time job thing, but then I'm like, I want to travel again. And a lot of these jobs are like, you can't just be in and out like that. So I would have to like quit my job just so that I can go back to being full-time and travel. So I've done that a lot throughout the years, and so it's just been on and off like full time. But lately, as of lately, because I quit my job last year. My full time job, I quit it before the summer, and then in the summer I went to New York and I was there the whole summer, and I was just full time DJing again. And then I moved.
I was just
I
gonna
moved.
say New York is very hot in the summer, but I guess LA is probably even hotter.
Different types of heat though. It's like
Okay,
humid
yeah,
hot in New York, and
fair,
LA it's dry heat.
yeah.
So it's very different. But it definitely feels hotter in New York than it does in LA.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because humidity heat is like, ugh, like it's just, yeah, you have to be out. You can't be. But I love New York. In the summertime, it is hot, it's warm, it's humid. But there's just so much going on. It's so much fun. And there's like, just out, you're hanging out. Everybody's out once because, they experience the seasons.
Yeah,
Like I know you guys experience seasons too,
yeah.
but they experience the seasons. So in the summertime, like they're just like, I want to be out. I'm living
No,
my best life in the summertime.
it's the same here in Toronto. Like in the winter, everyone's like indoors, but once the weather gets warm, everyone wants to be out. Everyone wants to
Exactly.
be like on a patio or at the beach or at a cottage or whatever.
Right. And I mean, it's great for DJs because everybody's just thriving. Everybody's just out, wants to like, just party and have a good time. And it's just the best time for a DJ, especially in New York because there's so much going on. And so that's why I love being there in the summertime. I don't mind the weather at all. So I was there in the summer, and then towards the end of the summer, I went over to Barcelona, and I was there for 3 months. And then I went back to New York, and I was there for like another 3 months. And then I came back here, and then I was like, you know what? I did the full time thing these past few months, like almost a whole year. I've just been like full time DJing again
Yeah.
and hustling and traveling, and not just in one place, but in another place and all that stuff. So I said, when I got back home, to my home base, um, I was just like, you know what? I think I'm gonna just like switch it up. I don't want to just like be full time hustling here as a DJ again because I did that for so many years here.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, let me look for like a part time job. And normally, like, I dread that because I'm just like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm like, what do I want to do? And it has to be something where I'm gonna enjoy it. If I'm
Hmm.
making the sacrifice of like giving up full time DJing. So I found this job and like I tried it out and I just like love it. And so I'm just like full time doing that and so I do full time that and like I also DJ here and there. But I love it because I'm happy. Like my job that I'm doing, I didn't expect to like it. I was
Yeah.
just kind of like I'm gonna fill it out and see if I like it or not. And I love it. So I'm just happy at this point because it happened so naturally. Like
Yeah.
it's just like I didn't expect to like it and I do and I like and I'm able to make money and like survive off of it to the point where I'm not stressed to like do a part-time, gig if
Hmm.
I need it. It's just whatever comes my way with the gigs now. So when I do it, it's like refreshing because it's the balance. Like I'm not burnt out on the DJing and like I get to work and DJ too. It's a
Yeah.
balance.
And I guess you're doing gigs now because you want to do it as opposed to, oh my God, I really need to do this gig because I need to pay rent or whatever.
Exactly. And it's like a different type of like pressure too. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like personally, like I was just having this conversation with my friend Sean last night. I was like, it's just I look forward to it now. Like I look forward to my gigs again, where it's not because I haven't done it in a while. Rather than doing like 5 gigs a week, it's like I do one like every other week. And I'm like excited about it. I'm like, yeah, I get to play these records and like hang out with my friends and like really focus on what I'm gonna play because it's just like one set. Rather than having like 4 different sets that I have to work on. I mean, everybody does their thing. Every DJ, whatever makes them happy. But me personally, I would rather focus on one set and just give like all my energy and creativity to it and then just get it out of the way and then look forward to like the next one like a few weeks down the road, or
Hmm.
maybe like a few days down the road. It just brings out like a whole different result. Like I've noticed that. Like it's like a totally different energy and the delivery, everything. Like when I did Twitch, I hadn't been on Twitch, Ranny, in like 2-3 weeks, right? And I did a stream this past Sunday with a good friend of mine, and we did like a stream for like 4 hours, and it was just like we hadn't been on Twitch in so long. So when we got on and we were just vibing out and playing records, like we were having so much fun. It was like 4 hours, and it just felt so good because we hadn't done it in so long,
Hmm.
So now we're like thinking, okay, let's do it again, but let's not do it every week. Let's do it like every other week so we can have that same kind of energy, right?
Yeah.
Like while we're on Twitch again. So and people look forward to it as well. Like I had so many people responding to the stories that I was sharing and about the stream and everything, and they're just like, "Oh my god, I had so much fun! Like, you guys have to do it again." I'm like, "Yeah, we're gonna do it again, but we're gonna make you guys wait. Like, we're not gonna do it every week. Like,
So on Twitch, do they not do like copyright or anything like that, or like
yeah, they
is there any
do.
issues?
Yeah, that's the thing about Twitch. Like, you can while you're on there, like while you're streaming,
Hmm.
like they're not gonna be cutting out the music. Like
Yeah.
IG, it does that where like they catch something and it kicks you off, right?
Oh, does
But
it
like
really?
yeah, like IG lives, like if you're playing music and they catch something, then they just kick you off of the live. But with Twitch, it's like you can just be streaming the whole time consistently. No, they're not gonna kick you off or anything like that. But once you end the stream and it's like uploaded or like saved on there, you're gonna notice that certain parts of the audio is cut out. So they
Oh,
basically
okay.
do that at the end. So yeah, so it's like you don't have the full audio. You'll have like certain clips that have been blocked out,
Oh,
certain
so
parts of the
if I
stream.
were to go back to like one of your old Twitch streams, I wouldn't be able to experience the whole thing because certain copyright things have been already deleted out of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's
But
kind
I
of
mean,
sad.
I don't mind that because like it's better than getting kicked off every like 5-10 minutes, because you're
Yeah.
playing a certain song. So yeah, so I've been doing that for years already, and I appreciate that because when we all had to go through like the lockdown and like as DJs like we had to figure out like how are we gonna do this, and we all resorted to like going straight to IG Live. We were all like, okay, let's get on IG Live, and then we had to go through that whole process of like getting kicked off and getting frustrated and
Well, a friend of mine does it every Saturday on IG Live, and she says that um, the reason why, like, she'll play beats and stuff, but then she'll be storytelling, like, and talking over it a lot of the times, just
hmm
because that helps to like not catch I guess the copyright of the music, or
yeah,
she
there's certain things you can do.
and
Yeah.
or she says that she'll kind of like speed it up or down tempo it, so it doesn't get caught, and that just sounds too complicated.
Yeah, I know. There's certain things that you got to do for sure. Like, one thing that I did notice, from my experience, like doing IG Live, because once in a while, or I tend to do it a lot, but I go on IG Live when I'm practicing, just for fun. I put the camera there and I'm like practicing here at home. And so what I noticed that works for me is if I'm doing quick mixing. So it's like it doesn't catch the song.
Yeah.
So like I just switch to a different song and that keeps my live on longer. I could be on for like a whole hour and not get interrupted because I'm doing quick mixing. But the minute I start letting the records play out,
Yeah.
that's when it starts taking me off. So because I'm not gonna be talking, like I'm not gonna do all that. I'm just gonna be playing music.
Yeah.
On Twitch, I do that. Like I talk, I do all that stuff, but I don't have to deal with interruptions and stuff like that. So I love Twitch for that reason. And then you can make some money off of there too. People can subscribe to your channel and like send you like bits, which is like tips basically,
Yeah.
and things like that. So and then you could just play whatever you want. Like there's no pressure. It's
Was
just all fun.
was there something else that you were doing on YouTube, or was I imagining that?
No, I haven't uploaded anything on YouTube as far as like my own sets. I mean, I've had other channels, like other people that have YouTube channels, like certain spots, residencies or whatever
Oh,
that
okay.
that they record my set. Like they'll record my set and then they'll upload it and I'll just share it on my channel.
So
So like
how does it work in that case? Are they not doing, like, are they not getting copyright? Um,
I have no idea how they do it. Like all these videos that have been archived on my channel of like my mixes and stuff from these other people's channels, like there's no cutouts, no audio cutout or anything. So they figured it out. They have already figured it out because they've built already like a channel on these like live mixes and stuff. So they've done like the trial and error. I personally haven't done it on mine where I want to just like upload my own stuff
yeah.
because I'm worried that I'm gonna have to get like the audio cutouts and all that stuff. So I have to figure it out. But that's one thing that I do want to do because I have been hearing that YouTube is a really good way of like connecting with people and like you know what I mean, like
Hmm.
just like expanding your audience.
Yeah, and I know that was something I've, growing my channel. It's like I'd want to do like a review of a record or something, and then play little bits and pieces here and there, not to kind of like, you know make money off of the artists or anything like that per se, but at the same time, I don't want to get dinged for copyright and then have my channel shut down because of it. So it's really weird. I know a couple months ago I saw um, the drag queen. Do you know Trixie Mattel?
No, sorry.
It's okay. So she's on Drag Race with RuPaul, and anyways, she's this big drag queen, but she also does DJ. She does DJing, and on her channel, she did like a whole 45 minutes where she was just DJing like a set, and it's just like, how is this allowed? So that always it's something I need to kind of look into. But everything I've read so far, it's like nope, 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 not possible. So
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
I that's something that I haven't done. I mean, I have we're on the same boat basically. Like I have a Mixcloud. I have a SoundCloud. I have a channel on YouTube as well. But as far as like uploading my own stuff, I haven't done that. I just have like shared, live mixes from other people. But that's just another thing that, and then I have Twitch. I have Twitch, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, all that stuff. So Instagram.
So while we're like kind of almost closing off here, why don't you tell us kind of let's start off with the regular shows that you do online. Where can people find those, and what are they?
Well, on Twitch, I have a show that I do every Tuesday, and that's Alternative Tuesday. And then on Sundays, now I have something called 7-inch Sundays with my friend Jeannie. And so her and I, we do it every other Sunday on on Twitch, and then I do Alternative Tuesday like every other Tuesday. I used to do it every week, but now because of work and stuff, I've done it like every other week. So I'm on Twitch, and then as well as like I upload a lot of mixes and stuff, mostly on Mixcloud. So I'm on Mixcloud, and then SoundCloud as well. I do upload some mixes on SoundCloud, but mostly on Mixcloud. And then I also do a radio show, which was one was today. It's every first and third Sunday of the month. I do a
Okay.
radio show, and it's live. It's like a spot in the East Village in New York. It's a radio station in New York. It's called High Note Radio, and so they
Okay.
have like a physical studio in the East Village and in Manhattan. And so I started doing a radio show there live. Like I would actually go in person and like record my show and do it like live while I'm there.
Hmm.
But since I came back to LA, I've been recording them and submitting my shows. So they're pre-recorded right now, but normally I'm there live and like doing my thing. So I do it every first and third Sunday from 2 to 4 Eastern
Okay.
time. So 2 to 4 Eastern time, and it's called Groove Control Radio. And so that it's more focused like on what I was saying, like it's more focused on the 80s era of like house, freestyle, new wave, like house, new wave, freestyle, all that kind of, but all 80s. Like it has to be within the 80s era. Like it cannot be 90s house. It cannot be 90s alternative. No, it has to be any kind of like freestyle, electronic, new wave, dark wave, post punk, whatever, 80s, all 80s. So
Okay.
it's called control. But I kind of expanded a little bit because I was like, I'm gonna throw in house in there and freestyle, and like we call it freestyle, but then some people call it high energy. So, I kind of expanded a little bit more with the house and the freestyle on that show. But yeah, that's mostly the inspiration. And, a lot of it was a lot of the post disco new wave stuff that was really popular in the 80s in New York that I put like specifically in my playlist, like that type of music, like Dominatrix, Man Parrish, a lot of like that, like 80s rap, 80s hip hop that was coming out, that was like all electro, all that stuff. So I focus on that show. So I do that every month. And then I'm on Twitch. If not, like, uploading stuff like on Instagram, I'm always on there. So yeah,
And
that's
then,
basically it.
and then, how often are you doing? I guess where can people find out where you're playing gigs? Or do you just announce that on your Insta, or
Yes. So
is
it's
there like a
like,
mailing list that people can join?
no, I haven't done that yet. I need to get on that, but definitely on Instagram. I'm very active on there. So if I have something coming up, I usually share it on there. So Instagram at DJ Jazzabella all together. So that's like usually where people can find me and connect with me and get like way more information, like where to find my mixes and like my radio show link and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I'll get all those links from you, and we'll have it in the description below.
Awesome.
So to end things off, if you were to give advice to someone who wanted to become a DJ or wanted to kind of explore DJing, what advice would you give that person?
Um, just I think for me, it's something that I had to learn throughout the years in my own experience as a DJ. I've had to learn through trial and error, and I think the most important thing that I can share with people that are getting involved as a DJ is just to follow the passion, follow your passion, and like, be about the music first. Be about the music, be passionate, and just do you and believe in yourself. And when you do all those things, doors will open, and and people will find you. The right people will find you because you're staying true to yourself, and you're believing in yourself, and you're doing it with the the idea in your head that like you're focused on music. It's about the music, and it's about connecting with other people through the music. So also being passionate and being very, very try to be disciplined, like really like focus on disciplining yourself and dedicating yourself to your craft and what you want to do with it, and just like I said, just be passionate, be about the music, and believe in yourself, and you will find people, the right people, and doors will open. And just always try to enjoy the whole journey. It's like so easy to get caught up with like
Mm-hmm.
comparing yourself and like feeling like you're not enough, or like feeling like you're not good enough, or like people don't like you, or whatever it is. It's just like, just focus on how you feel about yourself, not how other people feel about you. It's about how you feel about yourself. And that's what really matters. And just don't get caught up in what other people think. Think about you and why you're doing what you do, and believe in yourself and your purpose.
Awesome. Thank you, Priscilla, for being on the show. If you guys like more content like this or the podcast, please hit like and subscribe. Otherwise, we will see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rani. Thank you for having me, and I really appreciate you reaching out. And I had a lot of fun. And this is my first time doing like a interview like this. So I just really appreciate it. And I appreciate you being so flexible with me, and I had a lot of fun. So we'll definitely keep in touch. And when I'm in Canada, I'll let you know.
Oh gosh, there are a couple of key record stores here in Toronto that I think you might find some gems at. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm definitely gonna let you know, and I'm excited to go digging out there. It's gonna be crazy because I already know myself. Once I get in the 45 section, it's over. I'm there
Yeah.
for hours. But I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.